You've never seen before, you'll never see again, and you're going to talk about it in years to come.
The race of the century, it's nearing. Teams throughout the world are on the way. Riders and crews all gearing to run that camel race in '88.
They say that the old Wild West was tamed with wagon wheels and the smoke of a gun. But the outback was tamed by the curses of men and the hump of camels.
From Ayers Rock to the Gold Coast we'll travel. It's the longest, greatest race that's ever been. More than 3,000 Ks by camel. A tribute to an outback memory.
The roughest guts we call ourselves.
How long did it take you to get out here?
Oh, about 2 years, I suppose, pretty close to 2 years. I'll be fit as buggery by the time we get there.
If those blokes are as rough as guts, then these guys are as hard as nails. The Army has 3 teams in the Great Camel Race, but these blokes are the elite, the Special Air Services, the crack anti-terrorist squad.
The human factor has been under control. The men are very fit. Logistics, we have good vehicles, the bikes, communications, rations, and medical. However, the camel's the unknown variable. It's the difference. It's a new skill.
Is that what you'd call it, is it?
Oh, that's right. I can control the men, but the camels, they do their own thing, right?
When I've dealt with lions and tigers, you've got to worry about the mouth end. With the camels, they come at you from everywhere. You can be struck from the front, you can be bitten, spat on.
But now he's good.
Now he's good?
Wait, with his spraying, yeah, he just stands there.
Oh, that's good. It is a bit of a worry. I guess you tend to get used to watching out for him, but there's always the risk that you're going to get kicked. Come on, Bob, that's not that bad. Most of the sharp sticks you try on are worse than that. We look at heart rate, we look at respiratory rate, we look at temperature, we look at blood concentration. Pretty big boy, we're getting some good strong peaks there. I'm sure that a fair percentage of the total number will not finish.
The vet Alex Tinson has his work cut out, checking on 69 feral animals. It was his job to make sure that nobody pushed their camels too hard. Every camel needs a backup crew. The Army had their fleets of trucks, but Paddy McHugh had his wife and kid.
Virginia came along because we were going to be 3 months on the road, and I felt it was a long time to spend away from her and the little one, so it was good that she'd come along and be with us, I think.
We'll be riding from Yalara across outback to the coast. We'll be riding for the doctor, brings help to the last outpost. Driven by a feeling deep in your soul, looking for that something no one really knows.
We don't mind a good sort of a challenge, and I think for the bicentennial, we thought it would be a real great way to take part and do something, you know.
If you haven't done anything like it, it's going to become a shock, I think, to a lot of people.
Are you going to be looking after Mum, or is she going to be looking after you?
I think we'll do a lot of looking after each other.
Who's Mummy's baby, hey?
Oh, he's beautiful. Mummy's baby with a bad breath, but you're beautiful. Oh, he's beautiful.
We'll make it, hopefully. We want to make it anyway. We really, really do. We've put a lot of effort into this and a lot of money.
And how's Calcadon shaping up?
You threw me off yesterday, but
I don't think I've ever been so nervous, actually. I think we're right. We're ready to go.
You're walking and the horizon never seems to change. There's nothing that shows you've made any progress for days, except your own footprints, and that's going to be pretty hard mentally.
Because it's so far, it's a long way. Never been a race that long in the world, I don't think. It's 3,000 kilometres.
Anybody got a chance in this race? I think it's anybody's race, really.
69 camels faced the starter. Ahead them, 3 million steps, 100 days. And some just bolted for that $100,000. The smart ones, they were steady and on their way.
The rules are simple enough. One rider, one camel. They have to make it together to the Gold Coast. The race is divided into 6 stages, with the prize money increasing in each stage. The prize for the overall winner, the camel that gets to the Gold Coast in the least elapsed time, is $45,000.
We're riding from Yalara across outback to the coast, and we're riding for the doctor, brings help to the last outpost. Each day a new horizon we must attempt to reach, but the dream we seek remains beyond the sunrise in the east.
Spot the Yank? That's Alan Deaver.
It just totally captured my imagination from the moment I first heard about it. My mind was filled with visions of traipsing across the outback and poisonous snakes and incredible sunsets. Just the whole magnificent desolation of the desert, all that attracted me so much. And I hung up the phone, thought about it about 5 minutes, and picked the phone right back up and told him, send me an application. I want to be a part of that race. It's gotten to where the feet hurt so bad that I don't care if he bucks me off. The bruises from being bucked off hurt less than the blisters. I've brought my big, beautiful American flag along, and I'm certainly doing it for America, but at the same time, I'm doing it just as much for myself.
Drew's waltzing his Matilda is a swaggy, collecting for the doctor on the way. 68 years young with his dog Laddie, is walking for the human race today.
Ah, you're only here once, so if you can have a bit of fun and do a bit of good, perhaps living's worthwhile. I cheat a little bit, he pulls me along. Does a great job.
There are 7 women in the race. The favourite is Dr. Jill Colwolf.
I was a marathon runner and actually held the Australian record for the marathon for a couple of years, and I still do enough running to keep fit. I've also got the medical knowledge, which is a help in some way as far as the camel goes. I regularly monitor the camel's heartbeat, and that allows me to get some idea whether he's actually getting tired or whether he's just bludging, and I know whether to push on with him. I've also been a lady jockey, so I have a fair amount of experience racing other animals.
There's a lot of characters in this race, but we're going to be watching Paddy McHugh and his international team. Paddy's put everything he has into this event, and his road to success in the camel farming business depends on how well he goes.
Our favourite camel team was led by Paddy. Had Jackie, young Ben and Viking Paul. But the wild Calcadoon, he wasn't quite ready. Didn't think much of this racing stuff, not at all.
I was up when he was down and we met like that and I punched my balls and everything. And then he swung us, so I just flew straight out of the saddle and landed on my feet like that. Poor Calcadoon, taken out from the wild, you know what? From his point of view, we've gone out, taken him away from his family and friends, and then make him lay down when we want him to, and then cuts his balls off, put a nose peg in his nose. He don't like it, you know?
After we caught him in the wild, 6 weeks prior to the start of the race, we moved to a beach just south of Ballina, which was an uninterrupted beach for 30 kilometres where we could spend as much time training them. We wanted to use the sand in the sand dunes because we figured that it would build up their muscles. We left them late so we could retain their wild spirit in them, you know, rather than get them and have them 12 months or 2 years before, because they get lazy in the paddock, you see. Whereas if you take them out of the wild where they're used to doing 50 or 60 kilometres a day, travelling for food, and can break them in just good enough, then I think they've got to have their wild spirit still in there, which has got to be an advantage in the race.
When we put the saddle on, he get tropo, we call it, like loco or extremely out of control wild.
We had a major incident with Calcadoo nearly every day.
But I definitely want to work with him, see what's going to happen with him. He's a good camel, isn't he? He's big and strong. He can be a good race camel, a bit of spirit.
Our plan was to do the 55 kilometres a day for the 8 days till Alice Springs. And we'll reassess it then and see what happens. Let everybody else go off. We don't want to get fazed by what they're doing.
Sapphire John and Rex Ellis have gone out like a bat out of hell. They're doing double than what we expected to do every day.
Camels, they'd be right on the point of maximum heart rate, wouldn't they?
I mean, heart's supposed to beat a lot, you know, keep the cholesterol going, don't they? Nothing wrong with your heart beating fast. It'd be a shame if anybody's put out on a technicality, you know? But these vets are pretty good blokes. I think there's a fair bit of scope for sanity there, hopefully.
So you're not worried that they're 12 hours ahead of you?
No, not at all. I reckon their camels will have serious problems if they keep pushing like that.
Sapphire John and Rex Ellis, they were kind of favourites. But they ran their race too fast, way too soon. Others said, hold back, we've got to save it. And they let them race on beneath that moon.
John Richardson's camel wasn't trained sufficiently to push it as hard as he did straight out of the starting gun like that. 2 or 3 days out and it fell apart.
It's a pity, but then again, these things to be expected, I suppose.
Yeah.
She's very tender in the feet, though.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd load her and take her home.
Bit of a disappointment to you?
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah.
You got to expect them things, I suppose.
That was a good camel. She's had a bad spin. Expected to come out here and go like she did that first day.
Anzac Day is a day when Australians remember the sacrifice of war. Thousands of the Australians served with the Camel Corps in World War I.
Cigarette.
The Army has 13 camels, 3 different teams, some 30 or 40 different trucks, and in excess of 100 men. In spite of all the armies thrown at this guy, Gordon O'Connell still managed to get out in front of them.
I don't care who's in front of me or who's behind me, I just do what I've trained it to do, you know.
I'd like to take advantage of the fact that my camel is more advanced than other people's, and they no doubt will have fitter camels halfway through the race, and if I can get as much time up as possible to start with, it'll be a hard job for them to catch me.
Now out of the mob came a skiddy bloke called Gordon. Ramrod straight, as tough as iron bark. With a camel he'd trained for a bit more than just walking, with an old mate called Lenny to back him up.
been out on trips together, training and one thing and another, and that's just it. Yeah.
How much training would he do?
Oh, he done much.
Yeah.
Long training spells too. See the benefit of it now.
So who are you doing it for?
For myself first and foremost, and because my wife actually allowed me to enter the race. A lot for her, yeah, for sure.
So the Camel comes and has a drink?
Go on.
And Gordon doesn't even have a drink himself?
No. Like me, we're both like camels, we don't drink much.
This is going to lay down in a minute. This is going to lay down in a minute.
This is the backup vehicle?
That's it. Mm.
And you look at what the Army's got and everyone else...
Oh, no, about what others have got. We've got to do with this so far. But, a lot of these other camels, they're nowhere near conditioned, you know. If they go and push them, they won't get through. They take them steady, they'll condition themselves on the way, see.
Man's got to do something silly once in a lifetime. But I only came along because my mate, he's 69, he's only a split of a kid yet, and he's riding a camel. So I've got to, stay with him to see that he's all right.
Oh, I'm all right, no worries.
And how old are you?
72.
Mine was going along and the other two stopped. I thought, oh, well, bugger it, I'll turn around and run back. He ran straight back, straight into the middle of the water and sat down and rolled over.
It's a good thing the banjo hates the water.
If there's water there, the camel will drink all the time, you know. They can't go extended periods of time without water.
This is an old swaggy trick. And when he's had enough, and it's not all drink, I just go like this. And I have a real good cold shower. In the hot weather, gee, it helps. Every swaggy has got to have a top medical kit. And mine's a little bottle of rum. And it's particularly good for snake bite, but you've got to take it before you bit. So every morning I have a bit of a slurp at it and I'm right for the day. And if I can find a beer, I'll have that too.
The whole purpose of the race is to raise money for the Royal Flying Doctor Service. And Drew Kettle is doing his own little bit towards that, I think.
It's going to give me a chance to relive the history of my grandfather, Bill Little, who spent most of his life on camels throughout this part of the country and surveyed this area. Bill Little was a Scotchman who married the daughter of an Aranda mother and a German father. And we're the descendants, the grandchildren of that Scotchman and that Aranda lady. When you look at the country here, this is actually Pitjantjatjara country. And for Aranda people in those days, they never trespassed in this part of the country. So it was hard for my grandfather to bring an Aranda woman down into Pitjantjatjara country.
For this race is to commemorate the early days of Australia when the Afghans brought supplies on camels into the interior of Australia. And now the railway line that comes up to Alice Springs is named again, a remembrance to the Afghan of the early days of Australia. Gordon seems to have done pretty well. He was so far out in front of the army guys going into Alice Springs there. He either didn't do his homework properly and didn't check the signpost, and he got lost, I think, by the look of it.
army's not coming, though.
Yeah, well, they might know the way, you see. They would know the way. They would just go straight to it.
What do you reckon someone switched the sign?
Oh, well, I don't know. Jesus, Lenny, I asked you to come up here this morning. I asked you to find the control point this morning.
Yeah, but that's no good. You've got to find the bloody control point.
We're driving round up there for bloody hours because there's no signs up.
Cheating guns. Bloody oath, you chased the camel all the way and then you shifted the sign. Of course you did. My oath you were. Congratulations anyway.
Shift the sign away. My sign, man. They think what he wants to think.
You saw the sign, did you?
Yeah, plain as day.
The army guy won the day, but Gordon won the money into Alice Springs. And as far as I know, nobody moved any signs.
Ah, where's Noel? Oh, thank God. I didn't think I'd ever get him.
Yeah, well done, you man.
Geez, the flies are bad. How we going?
You're about 16th in the field.
Here's me card.
Thanks a lot.
Good. I hope I can live to see it filled right in.
Rightio, Drew. You ready for your vet check, mate?
Oh, don't poke that needle in too hard.
How you been going? How are the pads on your feet, all right?
Oh, yeah, they're not too bad.
Let's have a look.
No. This always worries me.
Oh, you don't sound too bad.
Sounds good.
Yeah, what about, you want your temperature taken?
Well, not the way you give it to the camels.
We rode in from Ulara to the town of Alice Springs, dirty, tired and weary, but we felt like outback kings. Just outside of Alice, we camped near Paradise Lake, but realized in the morning we'd made a slight mistake.
They put us next to the bloody sewage works. The camel races are on this weekend in Alice Springs, so it should be a good carnival come festival type of time, so we're out to have a good time.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the house for the big Camel Cup Carnival weekend. Yes, you're all in for a humping good time. We've got the Grand Parade and the Circus Royale to help you enjoy the world-famous camel races. Yes, jockeys from all over the world are here today to give it a go.
Camel races are nothing quite like what we're doing at the moment. They're a short quarter-of-a-mile race where you get on and you get up your camel for 1 minute or whatever it takes to get them around the track. They're extremely exhausting and a lot of fun. So it's adrenaline rush and the dust and the atmosphere, and it's hardcore, right?
Well, he's a good mount. He's a fiery camel, but he's also a bucker. So we'll see what he does when he gets out there. Yes, he should be a good fast camel. You've got to lay the whip on well.
You nervous?
No, I'm never nervous when I'm racing.
What sort of a mount have you got?
Who knows? We'll soon find out. He's not a bad little camel. He doesn't look the fastest, though. To use your own camel would be silly. Something might go wrong with it. You might hurt it, you might sprain its leg, and then you'd be out of the race.
You've got to get a good start here or you're behind, you know?
Ziski's good. She's a good rider. She's had plenty of experience. She came first, I came fifth, but there's always another day.
Right, bring out the bell boys. Bring out the drummer. And we're going to give you a rally on the bells and drums. That bloke with a big mouth, don't go away, because I hope he wants to have a fight today. My name is Fred Bracey, and I'm the fairest referee in Australia. Give a rally on the bells and drums now.
This boxing should be interesting. The local bloke, the Birds of Moorland, they say he's never been beaten in a fight before. But I know that one of the SAS guys is going to be up there to fight him on stage. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the old Birdsville Mauler. Only happen in the outback, but Birdsville Mauler still retains his undefeated status.
The Aborigines that we see at the Alice sleeping in the riverbed in the Todd River, it's been their natural home for 1,000 years. I slept there the other night, and you wake up in the morning and these big river gums and birds and that flying, and it's really good.
And there's a team that writes for peace and shelter. Camel vision drew them to this race. Chris and Julie newlywed before it started, and all the way they've kept a happy pace.
We had both decided to do the camel race together, and I think getting married just became a natural progression.
We're actually the only married couple who are riding together in the race.
I think we might have to have some pink champagne when we get to it.
Fine idea.
And they're riding from Yalara across outback to the coast. And they're riding for the doctor, brings help to the outback folk. And they're riding for North Queensland and all the homeless youth. And they ride for peace in the world, so they ride for me and you.
Victor Lima 4 Juliet Tango. We have a camel rider who's fallen from his camel. His name is Chris Morgan. He has possible broken or dislocated left shoulder. He has pains in the back of his head. He has severe stomach pains. He cannot move the fingers in his left hand, but he is able to move his head from side to side. Over.
The flying doctors are sending an aircraft out. The bloke from Rumble Station will be coming to your location to pick up the patient soon. Over.
Yep. Only one straight line. Now, is that
This is bad luck for Chris. Newly married, out here on an adventure of a lifetime. His camel's bolted and now he's been thrown off. We don't know how serious it is, but we hope he's all right.
And they're riding for North Queensland and all the homeless youth. And they ride for peace in the world, so they ride for me and you.
I think the Simpson Desert section will be the one that sorts them out. I think mentally there's 3 weeks they've got to go every day, probably at averaging at least 8 or 9 hours a day minimum to get across that Boulia section and be ready to head off, and only the best prepared people and camels are going to be able to do it.
It's the longest part. It's the most unknown part. We haven't travelled through that part of it before. A lot of it's got no tracks or roads or very little water. It's looking grim because we've had a lot of rain. Gordon's probably under the most pressure right now because his race plan, I think, is to open up as big a lead as he can early in the race. But the SAS guys seem to be tagging him all the way, and one way or another, someone's got to break, you would think.
I was brought up by the Salvation Army home. I ended up in the bad boys' home because I was running away continuously. And at 13 years of age, I was told I was going to stay there or I could go to the stables and become a jockey. Certainly had a chip on the shoulders for sure. I wouldn't say I'm violent, but I'd never stand aside or get pushed around by anyone.
Oh, I think we're pegging back actually. We're coming in 2nd, 4th and 6th at the moment. Yeah. And we're catching up in hours. And Gordon's made a couple of mistakes at checkpoints, so he had penalties incurred upon him, so that and the fact that our camel's getting a little bit better, we should peg him back, hopefully. We're applying the pressure now. He knows we're breathing down his neck. So. We've got the best support staff and the best men. It's just the camels we're trying to pick up. We've got 3 now out of 5 that we can ride. There's 1 bloke riding the whole way now. The rest of them alternate between running and riding.
There's one bloke running the equivalent of 2 marathons a day, isn't there?
Yeah, it's Dusty. Yeah, he's hanging in there. He needs to anyway, he's carrying a bit of weight.
I knew that the SAS had 5 camels, so therefore they were going to push one at me every day, then rest one, and then come up another 5 days later with the same animal. They thought they would get me, sure. Sometimes I used to start a couple of hours behind and work out by tea time that I'd catch them, and then sneak past them. I mean, I've even ridden right down the middle of the road and they've all had their lights flaring, and then they can't see out into the dark, and walk right up the middle and no one saw me, you know, within 2 feet. You know, I'm creeping through with Carla, praying that she wouldn't bellow or anything like that. We made it through and sneaked off. That showed who had the endurance and who didn't have. And that's what the race to me is all about anyway.
Last night Gordon outsmarted himself. He went through a checkpoint without being checked in. So they sent out a search party, only to find him at the next control point, sitting down waiting for everybody.
And then I thought I might sneak around the outside of them, and I went about 10 kilometres up the wrong way.
So you outsmarted yourself?
Certainly did.
I was a bit worried about Carla, whether something had happened to her, see. Anything in the dark, and she could have gone lame on him, you know, and anything happened like that.
Navigation doesn't seem to be your strong point.
I just find the opposition like to know where I am, and I like them not to know, including the army.
Now it looks like there's an argument whether he actually did go through the checkpoint.
First little bit to get him going right.
To catch up, not that we can catch Gordon at all. I don't think we'd be silly to try at the moment. We'd burn ourselves out. All those guys up the front are pushing Gordon now, and Gordon's under an awful lot of pressure to stay supremo. We don't have to push him. We'll just wait and see what happens. It's inevitable something might go wrong. Let's hope.
Nice looking, aren't they?
It's ridiculous how competitive people are. They're racing their camels to the point where I think there's, 4 or 5 of them that are lame now.
Push! Push!
Calcadoon's a bit of a nasty bugger anyway, you know. He's always been a problem child.
Yeah, the other day when we rode in, he was like this. Probably a little bit worse. We thought we had it. We thought he wasn't going to buck, then he just started to buck. Go jump on him again. Jump on.
Paul didn't have any camel experience, so that's taking its toll now too, and Calcadoon's got him bluff, and with good reason too. He's thrown him off a dozen or more times.
Feet edge on the stirrups there, Paul. Okay, hang in there. Pull digger in, pull digger in.
Stop him. Stop digging off.
For 10 hours, I would like to do it myself, but I can't. I really can't, you know. I just have to throw the towel in, you know. And I can't see the camel can do it either.
Push. Someone come in that side of Calcadoon and hit him in the head when he comes over the top of him. Push.
Then it costs us an hour. There's 6 kilometres a day. Well, 6 kilometres a day would keep me up with the group, which I feel is the group that someone out of that group will win the race.
I reckon we've got a bastard of a camel.
If this is going to continue, it's not sense and it's not enjoyable.
You've got to grin and bear it a bit, and I don't think we've grinned and bared it enough yet. You've got to realise that it's not a bed of roses out here, that's for sure. And I think a lot of other teams are thinking the same thing. I heard there's a lot of infighting going within the team, and I'm sure there'll be more of it too. 600 kilometres on a 3,300 kilometre race. We're starting to fall apart a bit. We've got to smarten up a bit.
You're out there, you get swamped by thousands of flies are landing on your face and they're trying to get in your mouth, your nose, and your eyes because they're so thirsty in this land that they're just trying to get in your mouth to get a little drop of moisture.
The flies, the bloody flies. They're in my ears and in my eyes. They crawl about upon my head. I wish the flies were bloody dead.
No worries.
They say they've come with recent rain. I wish they'd bloody go again. Seems their job to scour our skin. A man feels like a rubbish bin.
You don't look so good yourself.
Now here's a fella. He's on the track. As he wanders in, I see he's black. He shakes his head. I get a fright, because blow me down, the bugger's white.
Lad, ever racing? We share most things, and the thing that bloody loves is raisins. Yeah. Oh, we're feeling good today, but I was feeling blooming terrible yesterday. Yeah, I see. There's a bit of a bad sand drift up front, is there, on the river? The sand was packing up in my toes and I was crippling myself. So I took the end off my shoes and it just flies out. Made a world of difference.
Oh, I feel like a wounded soldier. We're quite a mess. His foot all wrapped up, my knee and my back. We thought it was over with for sure. When he went lame on me and he was just tripping and falling, and I'd already thrown the towel in. I sometimes marvel at the human spirit that people would put themselves through this.
I can't wear shoes, mate, because my feet blister. So when the ground gets too rough, I just wear the thongs. I haven't worn shoes, mate, for 2 years. Whenever I get into sandy country, I always take the thongs off.
Rough as guts, we're easy, that's no worries. Take a little smoko on the way. Let the camels set the pace, who's in a hurry? Outback gypsies, just cruising day to day.
Camels weren't called ships of the desert for nothing. In the heavy sand they just sailed through.
But what happens if you don't get the beer through?
Yeah, well, we'll just break someone's arm and then the flying doctor's got to come and he might as well just bring some beer to us. Or he doesn't get the patient.
Mahalui. Good one.
Yeah,
I think Roger, he wants to come along and be part of the whole operation. Roger's people don't have the same competitive spirit that we do, you know. And he wants to show himself around the countryside and be part of the atmosphere of it, you know. It's very hard for us to understand as white people how Aboriginal people would feel about a situation like this. And he seems to be having a good time.
Thank God for this.
I've got some pudding here. There's a bloody moth got in and actually drew, but look, it'll it be okay?
Oh, I hope it's a bit better than that damper you made this morning.
Oh, well, you know how it is, isn't it?
Yes, what about another stubby?
Well, actually, that's the last you got there now. So,
What, didn't you get more than this?
No, I put the other one in the damper. You know how it is, isn't it?
Fancy putting a stubby in a damper. I've been throwing half the damper out. Well, I'll be blowed.
Yeah.
You know, really though, I don't think heaven could be better than this. What do you think, mate?
Well, I'm not sure what actually heaven is yet.
Ah, well, when you find it, you'll know it.
Yeah, we've got to get more organized because the things are starting to get too chaotic.
Every single one of us has been throwing up and sick. It must be just some wog going around at the moment. And then when we got here, it really set in really bad. I think I've ever been so crook, actually. We picked up about eight places last night, narrowly missed out picking up another 2, which brought us from 29th down to 21st or 22nd. God almighty, I'm blowed if I know what we have to do to get down in the 10s. Like, we did 167 kilometres in 2 days. And the ones up the front are starting to wilt a little bit, so we can only hope they come back to us a bit.
Crossing the great Simpson Desert, a field of beauty kissed by the rain. But the flies, sand and the sickness, and the camels too began to feel the strain.
Hold on to his son. Stay on his son. Everybody in his son? There's too much weight, you know. The rain, all that rain we had before we came away was caused all their feet to go really soft. Like we had 33 inches of rain in 12 days. It's really soft there. He's not going lame, and it doesn't seem to be hurting him.
Hey, Granny.
Hi.
What happened then?
Well, he done his shoulder.
Yeah?
So he's out of it now. Very disappointing, but that's the way it goes. We had a little cry, Tom and I.
Yeah. How much time and effort have you put into it?
Oh, about nearly 2 years. And about $25,000 down the track. Then we're out, but it doesn't. It's the luck of the draw, you can't help it.
And about 200 yards up the road there, I heard this loud sort of cracking noise, and then she just flopped down in the road, and that was it. Just went straight down. Come on, get up, come on. Might be a way of saying I've had enough. You know, it's her way of saying it anyway, I suppose.
The more pressure Gordon's got on him, the harder he's going to push. The army boys are up there with him, and they're pushing him all the time, so he's going to try and keep ahead of them.
Their honour perhaps is a little bit at stake here.
I hate to wish any harm on any camel, but eventually, you know, the camel's got to wear down, especially at that pace.
Well, they can say what they like. The proof will be at the end.
Trying to keep a general level of harmony within the competitors, and with all the sort of the cheating allegations, the rumours, even just general abuse flung at each other when they're riding, trying to keep that under control. You know, you've got this little simmering pressure cooker there all the time.
The pressure's very intense at the moment.
Is that really 97k, that leg?
I think it's a bit longer than that. I think it's a bloody lot longer than 97K.
All you need is a little incident, a sign that's fallen off, or some little incident, and it just triggers it.
I've noticed that they keep bringing up this thing about this checkpoint, almost as if they're trying to worry you with it.
The only way they can stop me from winning, basically, is to maybe get me disqualified.
The placings are subject to a protest at the moment. I've received a number of written complaints on a certain matter.
If a competitor misses a control point or a checkpoint, he or she must return to that point before continuing the race.
I felt there was some rather extenuating circumstances as to why Gordon had not been recorded at that checkpoint. I had quite a number of witnesses to check tracks and his story and everything else, and I am quite satisfied that he went through the checkpoint.
Without being recorded?
Without being recorded.
Now, just a minute, I'll have my say and then you can give it to someone else. Checkpoints here, rule such and such states that if you miss a checkpoint, you have to go back. Now, on one chap, as I said, I got back to Gordon.
Did he miss the checkpoint? Can I have some clarification on that? Did he miss the checkpoint?
He went through the checkpoint, but he wasn't...
Well, if he went through it, did he miss it? Ken, did you read my report on that incident or not? Did you read?
No, I haven't seen it. But even so, to give a 3-hour penalty,
right,
if he's either guilty or he's not guilty. If he's not, now just a minute, if he's not guilty, was he checked through? Now I'm talking to this guy, not to you. What has been happening up to now, bloody well stinks. I am going to sue unless these rules are enforced, and I mean enforced.
This obsession with what everybody else is doing. If there's complaints, look, you can come to, people have been coming to me 48 hours a bloody day for the last 4 weeks with complaints.
Well, I think they've come into the emotional strain, the human emotional strain phase. The first week was camel health and one thing and another, and the second week was people health, but this week it seems to be the emotions and the tension that's getting everybody.
The one thing I've been dreading is rain, and of all places in the Channel Country. And did it rain? We had an inch in a matter of no time whatsoever, and from dusty, dry roads it turned into a inland sea.
You get 2 inches of this mud on your shoes.
We watched a miracle occur today. Rain falling, something didn't expect out here. It might rain maybe once every 4 years out here. Prior to a month ago, there probably hadn't been a drop of rain between 4 and 7 years.
Bored for a day or so. All we can manage to travel in this rain is probably about 1 mile an hour if we're lucky. We're all soaked through to the bone now. I've got 2 coats on and I'm freezing cold and I'm wet right through the bone, so it gets a little bit tricky from time to time.
The last one through. Don't know if the others will be able to get across. Why? Well, it's just starting to flow down there a bit further. Starting to flow, is it? It's starting to get pretty deep in soft holes. What do they do? Camp on the other side. Might be there for a while if this takes up.
Shit, that leg's right down the mud hole.
We should do that.
Well,
I will take.
used to be. Like a miracle, the desert had turned to sea. Days from shelter, out here all alone. The race forgotten, we helped each other home.
What if we ran out of bed?
Oh, I've got the Air Force coming in now with a chopper full.
One of the greatest things about this particular race is that we started off as strangers and now we're just sort of one big happy family and come together very close. And when in need, there's always someone there to lend a helping hand.
Did you get your truck up here?
Ronnie Little's gone missing. He was seen yesterday, I think it was, and it was reported that he was going to try and take a shortcut to come around the bottom of a lake. And the rising creeks would have caught him out, I would think.
Roger, we waited up as long as we could, then exhaustion must have overcome us, over.
We found him out the bottom of this lake, so it was just a matter of him getting back to the rest of the group.